Coming to you from sunny California and the Great White North. Get ready. We are breaking down the obstacles on the Armchair Ninja Podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Armchair Ninja Podcast. It is Saturday, February 9th, 2019. My name is Rich, and joining me once again is Bijan. How you making out?
Dude, I am fantastic. I watch an amazing, amazing display of athleticism, drama, grit, determination, just all around. Ding. I'm so happy right now.
Oh, what did you watch?
I watched Sasuke 36. That's right, y'all. It's finally happening. I know we've been holding off on this, but Rich and I are finally covering Sasuke 36. Dude, like, for the past month, how much has your, Twitter, Instagram, everything been blowing up? Everybody's been wanting us to cover this.
Yeah, we've gotten a few messages along the way. I did have some spoilers. I actually had the ultimate spoiler, unfortunately. But it was still a great special. All kinds to talk about. Yeah. So, I mean, even though the ending was a little spoiled, it was still great fun to watch. So long, though. I got to say, 4 hours. It's so long.
Yeah. Can you imagine? Because, we watched the abbreviated one without commercials.
I know. It's crazy. It's like 4 hours without commercials.
Yeah, they need to do something about that. Maybe like a 2-day event or something. That's too long. That's too long for anybody.
Yeah. It's good to split it up if you can. But yeah, still very enjoyable. Highly recommend it. It is out on YouTube. I will link it in the show notes for anybody that wants to check it out.
Watch it while you can, y'all. That link might not be available forever.
Yeah. It's not. It's. Let's say it's not legit, really.
It's all good, we have nothing to prove. Hey, but where do you want to start with this? Because there's so many directions we can go with this discussion. Do we want to go overall feelings about the show? Do we want to just go straight into run by run? Or do you want to talk maybe about the controversy? I don't even know if it's controversial or something, but maybe the disappointment that happened with with a very familiar face of ours. I'm trying to be vague.
Right.
Or maybe, somewhere else. Where do you want to start this conversation, Rich?
I think it only makes sense to go stage by stage. We can't do run by run. There's way too much to it.
Dude. Yeah. We got an hour, y'all. Let's not do that.
I will say, let's say overall course. Let's start there. That was a good place to start. The course is exactly the same, is it not? There's nothing different.
No, it's exactly the same. This doesn't really bother me very much just because, Sasuke proper... I have to look back. I could be wrong, y'all, but I don't necessarily remember them changing a whole lot course to course. Sasuke, what? I don't know, 10? Is it very different from 11? Probably it is. I don't know. But I don't remember them changing a whole lot of things up. The times where you see a drastic change in a lot of the obstacles and course layouts is when somebody achieves total victory. And nobody has yet for the past 2 or so Sasuke's. I have to look back on when Morimoto, achieved it last time. So that doesn't really bother me. And I could see some people giving the argument that it makes it stale. I would accept that, but I don't agree. I actually still like it, probably because it's very difficult still.
Yeah, I think there's a good point to that. It could get stale. It really could. But I kind of like the idea of putting it up there and letting the ninjas improve until it's beaten, and then let's revise it. Let's make it even harder. Let's redo the whole thing. I think it works out fairly well. That way you get more people. We're seeing more ninjas going deeper, doing better this year than we saw in the previous tournament. I think that's great. That's kind of what we're missing in A&W is more people going deep into stage 3, which is where the excitement is.
Yeah. I mean, I see both sides to it because I do like the variety that A&W gives us. I don't want that to change, but I very much do enjoy the fact that in Sasuke, we're starting to see these recognizable faces. I feel like they're doing a really good job season after season. I don't even like season, it might be the wrong term, but whatever. You guys know what I mean. Every single special, we see these familiar faces and they're building stars. And star power cannot be overseated when it comes to this. Darvish, like, I'm going to talk about him in a bit, but man, has his journey been amazing. And his accomplishments, in particular with his background, I mean, props to that guy. And, you know, we have now, you know, outside forces. This might be the biggest international representation we've ever seen in Sasuke, you know, and I enjoy that. I enjoy the fact that we have Drew Drechsel representing America, and we have Australian Ninja Warriors and Vietnamese Ninja Warriors now, and all these different Ninja Warriors also, like, right up there at the top of the echelon. But yet we get the two grand champions with Yuuji Urushihara and Yusuke Morimoto still killing it, still being awesome. And oh my gosh, I can't wait to talk about them. But what I'm saying is we have so many high talented worldwide international stars participating in this amazing event. And it's not something where this, even though the stages haven't changed and the obstacles haven't changed, it's so difficult that we still are seeing a lot of people fail. But, and this is what you were saying, Rich, the fact is we actually get a variety of people going through stage 1. And then when it goes to stage 2, we get a little bit less of that, you know, that group, you know, falling off. And then stage 3, a lot of that group falling off. Well, most of the group falling off. And we actually see somebody completing or like going on stage 4. I mean, that's what I want to see. And I don't know. I have to look back, but I got to say, I can't say of all time, but this has been, in my opinion, one of the best Sasukes I've seen in a very, very long time. And probably in terms of Ninja Warrior specials alone, one of the top ones. I'm calling it there. Like, I really, really enjoyed this.
Me too. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It might be my favorite one I've seen. I've only seen a handful of them. I realize we do kind of assume a lot here because we've covered this tournament a couple of times. We know a lot of you out there are big Ninja Warrior fans, but we really should give a little bit of background here for anyone that's not sure what the heck we're talking about right now. So Sasuke, for those that aren't aware, Sasuke is the original Ninja Warrior from Japan. It was the original tournament that American Ninja Warrior is based on, where it sprung from. Originally, the American Ninja Warriors didn't compete in Vegas. There was no Mount Midoriyama in Vegas. It was in Japan. They actually sent the ninjas over there to compete. It wasn't until season 4 they brought it to America and did their own thing. A whole lot of backstory, a whole lot of drama around everything. We're not going to get into all the details, but that's your bullet point summary for those that aren't familiar with what we mean when we say Sasuke.
Yeah. And how do you feel about the fact that Sasuke 36, you know, in the graphics and promo, it says Sasuke, but then, like, it also says Ninja Warrior. Like, they're promoting it as a Ninja Warrior. Like, I don't think Japanese Ninja Warrior is a proper term because it is the original Ninja Warrior or Sasuke, but, you know, they are using that verbiage in the logo now.
I saw that. I was like, did I miss that before? And apparently not. That is new. Okay.
Yeah,
that's interesting.
I like it. I like it because they're making that connection. You know, Ninja Warrior has become a worldwide phenomenon, and there's so many different versions of it. This is the original. Them, you know, I always felt it strange, the fact that, and I don't think strange is the right term because it is the original and they, like, can do their own thing. But why not go all in? And the fact that this is so big everywhere else, like, it might not be the same name, but go in with the Ninja Warrior thing. That's what people recognize it as. And I like the fact that at least they're not going full in. They're not saying Japanese Ninja Warrior. But at the same time, they are saying Sasuke and then Ninja Warrior in the graphic. I'm cool with it. I like it.
Yeah, I think it makes a lot of sense.
I can see some diehards being very butthurt about it, though.
Probably. But yeah, let's actually get into some of the runs here from stage 1. Let's talk about it a little bit. It's a different tone. Again, for those that aren't familiar, it's a little bit silly in the beginning. I guess American Ninja Warrior is somewhat too. Some feel-good stories. I really liked run number 4 was Sakuma Koda, and I'm going to mangle every one of these names. I apologize right off the bat. I'm not going to apologize for everyone through the whole special. This is my blanket apology for every name I'm going to get wrong. Sakamakota, an elementary teacher, had his whole class cheering on the sidelines like we've seen before, but oh my God, they were adorable. And he ended up timing out on the wall. He was so close to finishing it, but wasn't quite able to do it. I like that run. That was a lot of drama for run number 4, I thought.
Yeah, good starting run. That said, I mean, when it comes to stage 1, a plus and a minus, I guess you could say, for Sasuke is the fact that in one single sitting, they show a lot of stage 1 and a lot of those 100 runs, and it can get a little stale. So unless we're talking maybe runs 70 or up, I mean, let's fly through it, bro. Whatever you have to talk about, let's get through it, because
I know
nobody
you're
wants to hear about these guys.
Run number 4, I know. I actually, the next one I'm going to mention is in the 70s. I'm jumping
okay, there we go. Good. I'm sure all of our listeners being like, oh boy, this is going to be a long podcast. No worries, y'all.
No. We're jumping ahead. Let me see. I'm going to skip a few that are going to be kind of featured more to talk about later on. But I do have to mention run number 76, Mori Wataru and his wife with the most amazing voice you've ever heard. It's like a million songbirds.
I hate you.
And I'm going to play a clip of her right now because Bijan just loves her so much. Isn't that magical? Isn't that just like the sweetest, most amazing cheering section you could possibly have in the sidelines? I was so excited to see them back.
I'm finding my inner peace. Stay calm. Don't let him win. That's all I'm saying. That said, honestly, she wasn't that bad this time. She has been so brutally annoying. So brutally annoying. I think I will admit I muted it.
Oh, that's
but they
why.
I don't think they cut to her like that much, did they?
I am gonna totally play. So the first clip that I played was just from the middle of the run, but when he beat stage 1, I wish I had filmed myself because I actually sat up straight in my seat and was just bracing for it. I was so excited. I was grinning ear to ear, just waiting. And they cut to her, and then you hear this. Just amazing. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Oh God. And the worst part is that I heard this part. I unmuted it too soon. And I was like, oh no, it never ends. Seriously, like,
it was wonderful.
Like, do they do this on purpose? She has to do it on purpose. Like, they have to know she has the most annoying voice on the planet.
From what I understand, because you got in a lot of trouble, or we got in a lot of trouble for you bashing on her before.
I got in no trouble. Everybody agrees with me. Haters don't agree with me. Man, everybody knows that is terrible.
No, she does voice work. I mean, it sounds, and I don't mean any disrespect for this at all, but it kind of sounds Pikachu-ish. I don't know if it's a similar type character she does, but
man, I don't know, man. Maybe it's a thing in Japan. I don't want to talk bad about, whatever, but nails on chalkboard for real.
But moving on, I can't harp on that all night as much as I would absolutely love to. We had at 89, and the competitors are numbered. I don't want to go into the whole details of it, but I love it. I wish American Ninja Warrior would do it as well.
It's simple. The higher the ranking, the higher prestigious the competitor is. Yeah, there's controversy of who gets where, but
Yeah, which I think is cool.
Yeah, I like that.
Number 89 was, as you mentioned, an Australian Ninja Warrior, Benjamin Toyer, the pole ninja, who looked very, very strong and very, very good.
Yeah, I didn't know this guy as much. I've heard of him, but I don't know the guy, or I haven't seen really any of his runs. Dude was really impressive, man.
Yeah, he had no problems. He looked very, very comfortable in the course. Stage 1 is very, very time sensitive. I find it's pretty much more time sensitive than we see in America. It's like down to the wire for most of the people that even manage to do it.
I mean, that's understated. I mean, you have to fly. There's no slowing down, guys. That said, it's a shorter course this year. Traditionally, it's not. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but it felt a little short this year. But, with that said, they cut out that time. I mean, you got to keep on moving. The best of the best was finishing the stage with a lot of time left, but a lot of people were suffering, timing out. And I like that.
Nah, even the top competitors, most of them had under 10 seconds left. Like the buzzer was going when they hit it.
Mm-hmm. Dude, I like that. And it's not only that, Rich, like stage 2, that's the one where, dude, everybody was getting like under like 3 seconds.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a bit, but man, I was like, that stage 2 is rough, bro.
Besides that, a lot of familiar faces: Yuuji Urushihara, Darvish Kenji, Tomohiro Kawaguchi, and Yusuke Morimoto all did very, very well. All high numbers, all expected to do well. And our good friend Drew Drechsel was, of course, there, as he always is, and managed to beat it with like 30 seconds left, stage 1. Like an absolutely sick time compared to everyone else.
Yeah, it was awesome. And one thing I noticed, and I don't know if you caught this, Rich, but I felt like they gave Drew Drechsel and the Australian guy like a lot more time, respect. And I know that's the wrong term, but like I felt like the last 2 seasons they kind of like skipped over Drew and just glossed over him and other things, And I was just like, man, why are they throwing shade to Drew? I know he's not Japanese, but whatever. Like he does so well. This one, they really like were promoting him, really showing a lot of clips from America, like kind of accepting him as like one of the maybe the Sasuke All-Stars, like the new breed. Like he's part of that group. And even if he's not Japanese, like they really showed him a lot of respect. And I liked that.
Do you think it's because they had such a great tournament overall? Like it was such a great result from so many of their top ninjas that there was lots of shine to go around, right? Like you didn't have to worry about Drew outshining everyone because everybody did amazing.
That's a good point. I don't know the specifics. I don't know how they make those decisions. But yeah, I mean, I like the fact that if there's one thing I can pull out of this tournament is they built up everybody. Like pretty much anybody going into stage 2 and 3, like by the end of the special, you were really rooting for them. And you really like for me, I was emotionally invested, not only in the names that I knew, but some of the names that I'm like, have I seen them before? Or they kind of look familiar. Like I knew them by the end and I was rooting for them. Like I really felt they did a great job in their vignettes of building up each particular athlete.
Yeah, no arguments. It was all good. We had 15 clears of stage 1, which is a good number. A little on the low side maybe, but right about what I would expect and want. But moving on to stage 2 here. Again, like we said, no changes to the stage. It's very much the same as we've seen before. I like it. It's a good overall stage. Maybe a little on the... it's crazy to say because it's not like I could do any of it. But, I mean, a little on the easier side, I think would be fair to say, compared to what we're used to seeing from stage 2. We tend to have a pretty high clear rate in Sasuke for stage 2.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like... When it comes to Sasuke, stage 2, I feel like does a better job at easing people in based on different talents. Where kind of like in A&W, stage 2 has that big giant like a wall of a roadblock, which is the wing nuts. Sorry, my mind blinked there for a second, but the wing nuts, And Sasuke doesn't really have something like that. Or in my opinion, some people will say the jet stream or that. I still don't know how I feel about that dumb, like...
wall lift?
No, the wall lift, well, that's always been there. But that like treadmill thing...
the reverse conveyor belt thingy that they have?
I don't know how I feel about that one. We'll give thoughts because there is a particular run where I'm like, something needs to be fixed there.
Two very notable runs on this one, but go ahead.
Yeah. But I feel like even though it's not as strong in many ways as the A&W equivalent and maybe some of the other international Ninja Warriors, and I feel like this probably is a stage that can be improved the most, the time limit that they put on it does make it still very entertaining and very engaging. Like you never get a second to breathe. They really make the time really important when it comes to stages 1 and 2.
Yeah, time was such a factor that it caused two very big problems that I think we really need to get into here. Competitor 76, actually, the guy with the wife, had a very interesting happening. So as he's racing through the course, doing a very good job, he hits the conveyor belt. So imagine a very fast conveyor belt going against you and you have to run along it. But there are little edges on either side that you know, people's feet touch them all the time. Like they're supposed to stay on the conveyor, but you know, you slide off sideways here or there, and they do go off. And it's always kind of bothered me. I was like, it seems like you can kind of cheat your way through that thing. Well, we learned on his run that you really can't, because he very, very noticeably shot his feet out to either side of the conveyor and moved himself along without using the conveyor belt at least twice as he was coming through the tunnel. And I thought it was complete BS. And I'm like, I don't know. Like that, and that's when I kind of hated that obstacle. I'm like, why doesn't everybody just run up the sides of it? Like, they might as well just do that. And he finishes the whole course with half a second left. And then it basically got called in for a review. And he got disqualified. And I would say rightfully so.
Yeah, I agree with the decision. You know, I felt it very strange because it was clearly, like, I wouldn't say cheating, but it was clearly like not the way to go through that obstacle. But, and this is a big but for me, I don't think that obstacle should have those two little side things if that's an issue. Like, you talk about it all the time, Rich. Find whatever way you can to get through an obstacle. And, you know, if those sides are there, hey, they should be allowed to. I mean, I don't like it, but that's more of a flaw in the way they brought it up. We've seen on more shows than one. Ultimate Beastmaster, best way to put it, right? They have those treadmill things. It's not something where there's like all treadmills are that width. They can have something where that conveyor belt is the entire length of width of that like little tunnel thing.
But you know what? You actually kind of went against your own point there, because I have that same problem with Ultimate Beastmaster. They have edges on the sides, and some people, especially when they don't quite make the jump on Ultimate Beastmaster, they'll put their feet and stuff up on those sides to get themselves up, while other ones are trying to do it. And
how lame is that, man? I don't like that either.
I agree with you. I'm agreeing with you. What I'm saying is, I don't know if it's a safety concern or a physical limitation because they got to get all the gears and everything else in the things. There's some reason that those are there, and it must be that there's no way to... I don't know. I don't know what's preventing it, because, like you said, I would much prefer they not be there. Matter of fact, I would be fine with the whole obstacle being gone, but I get that they need that rule for this one. If you're going to make... To me, that's like the part of the structure. They really shouldn't be on that at all. I get that sometimes their feet will just fly out every which way, and that's inevitable, but yeah, design around it or get rid of the obstacle.
Yeah, I mean, I understand if you really think about it, there could be some safety reasoning for that. I could see that. But get rid of the dang obstacle, man. I mean, who so. Like, do you know anybody that says, "Oh, that conveyor belt is my favorite part of stage 2"?
There's
man,
somebody.
If they get rid of that, I'm gonna riot. Like, who's like, nobody cares about that. I hate that obstacle. I get it. Some people have failed because they're so exhausted. I get it. But even when people fail at that, that's not the way you want to see somebody go out. Like, it's just lame. Maybe it's just me. I get it. I understand if somebody has an argument against it for it staying, but I have way too many reasons in my head why you can just replace it with something far superior.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
But let's talk about something that's even more ridiculous. But honestly, I mean, I don't know. Let's talk about the Drew Drechsel thing, man.
Yeah, so when they go through, they have a water obstacle, very similar to what we see on the last two seasons of A&W, but this one's got like a jet stream pushing against them that they've got to swim against and get out the other side. And when they do, Yeah, it's pretty cool. I like it. There's a slide that they go down to get to the conveyor belt that we were talking about.
It's literally a transition, like, the walkway you go through to the warped wall or something else.
Yeah, 100%. Not an obstacle, just the ramp leading from one obstacle to the next. But when you're wet, as everyone is that comes out of there, and you're in a hurry because the time is very much a factor, someone like Drew, moving at a good clip, just slides right off the mat on the other side, and just it's hard to describe. There's like a black mat right next to the like official one that they're supposed to land on. So it's not like he went flying off the course in some crazy way, but he very clearly went past where you were supposed to go and stood up and realized what had happened and just kind of looked back like, oh, I'm out now, aren't I? And yeah, he was disqualified.
Like, I can't argue against the ruling because he was off the stage, but how lame. I mean, if there's ever a reasoning for, hey, maybe you should give somebody like a second, run through it again, because I felt like this was more a flaw on the course design rather than the competitor. You have a ramp, like you just finished a water obstacle. Like you have a water obstacle and then you have a downwards ramp. Like just a little ramp that you walk down. Well, if you were dry, you'd walk down, but most people would just slide down and catch their feet on a pad underneath. But it's a slippery pad, and then there's no wall or anything where you can catch yourself at, and it's just you're off the course. Who designed that? Now, I understand somebody can make the argument, well, that's just part of the way. You gotta watch out for that. No. There's no obstacle there. That's just a flaw in the design of the stage. It's unfortunate. I understand it because, the rulings are there and rules are there for a reason. But man, I really hope they fix that because, that's just the worst way you want to see somebody go out. I mean, this is worse than, somebody tapping the water with their foot. I mean, you have a competitor literally strong, but just sliding off the course because they're going a little too fast or whatever. I mean, think about it this way. It was Drew. So for maybe some, the people designing it, they didn't really think it was that big of a deal. Think of Yusuke Morimoto or Yuji, slid off in this way. Are you kidding me? That's the way their season's going to end?
I mean, I get it. I was not happy with it, but I agree with it. And I think it was fair, just disappointing. It kind of reminds me of in season 8, after the big wins and everything, I'm pretty sure it was season 8 anyway, we had a very disappointing stage 1 showing in Vegas. And specifically, I'm thinking of Kevin Bull and a few other ones that I forget what the transition obstacle was, but they're hitting the pad and they're just sliding into the water. It was just, it was like a giant log drop obstacle, right? And people were falling off of it. It seemed like, it was overinflated maybe. There was other reasons. It just was not a fun way to see people go out where it's just that feels like it's too slippery and things. It's not really a failure on the ninja's part. It did feel more like an obstacle fail. It's just not enjoyable. You want to see people go to their physical limits, not just a stupid slip up.
Mm-hmm. Did we see that obstacle again the next season?
No, we didn't.
Okay, I was like, I don't think so, but I could be wrong. For me, I think this is a very simple thing that can be fixed. Once again, I mean, I accept the ruling, I understand it, and I agree with it, but I think it needs to change, That said, let's get into Stage 2 because it was very enjoyable. And once again, for me, I like the fact that we got competitors actually a mix of both failing and, completing this stage. It wasn't something where it was so easy that everybody just walked through it like nothing. But the people that completed it, there was a good number of people that completed Stage 2, and they were barely making it by. They earned it.
Yeah, most of them finished with only a few seconds left. The wall lifts were very dramatic as they're trying to get through them, as the time's just ticking away. Other than those two, the only one I want to mention because it really stood out to me was Darvish Kenji.
Like, yeah.
He made it look like the most exhausting process in the world. Like, he looked like Jeff coming off of stage 3. Like, he was just completely spent and unbelievably emotional in the interview afterwards. Like, he was beside himself. It was very, very, I don't want to say difficult to watch, but it was a lot.
Mm-hmm. You know, the competitors of Sasuke, they're very emotional. Well, I can't say they, but like there are certainly some competitors on Sasuke that are very emotional. It means a lot to them, and they show their emotion. And you know, I really respect that. There's nothing wrong with crying or anything else, as long as it doesn't become like ridiculous. You know, there's definitely been somewhere where I'm like, here's the tears coming. That said, I really, really want to show my respect in particular to Darvish Kenji, because if you guys remember, like this guy, I don't know how many seasons ago, but this guy basically was there. He was a popular character, you know, in Japanese culture, and that's the most I know. I know he was popular, but I don't know from what or where. You know, you can look it up. But he was a character, for lack of a better term. He was somebody that was there to have fun, which is very commonplace for Sasuke. You know, have fun, have your time, you know, on stage 1 fail and move on with your time. But what he's done over the past few years is he's really committed himself to Sasuke, really shown a passion and really taken it seriously. And I really like the fact that he showed so much respect for this sport. And it's been an amazing, overwhelming journey. I mean, we've seen him improve year after year after year. And this past year, this last season, he got so close to hitting the buzzer on stage 1, and he was literally inches away, but he slipped up at the very last minute and fell down. And here he is this season. He completes stage 1. And I'm pretty sure he's completed stage 1 before. But what I'm saying is, you know, it's always been a journey for him. And you see him training constantly. And he completes stage 2. And for me, that solidified this guy is somebody that really, like, deserves all of the time that they give to him. Because let's be real, they give a whole lot of time to Darvish Kenji, and they give a whole lot of time to that ABC guy. Not so much this one, but like, man, those past 2 seasons, this ABC guy, this anime guy is always on stage 1, you know, a lot of time. But Darvish has really earned like all of the presence and, you know, the number, I forget, he has like some crazy high number, I think 97 or 96 or something like that. Like, But he's there, and he's showing that, like, he's not just some, like, dude. Like, good on this guy. This is not an easy stage 1 or 2, and he completed them. Props to him.
Yeah, I agree with that. From what I've seen, it definitely seems to be the case. And if you're looking for some comparison for those that primarily watch ANW, it would be very similar to seeing Jamie Ron complete stage 2, right? Like, how happy would you like to see him having this journey, going from being just a costume competitor, a guy who was having fun on the course, to taking it so seriously and making it so much a part of his life and representing the sport and becoming the great athlete that he is now. You want to see guys like that go deep and prove that they deserve to be, considered among the top elite ninjas.
Yeah. And for newbies, we're, like Rich is talking about like early Jamie Ron, you know. I know Jamie Ron's pretty legit now, but you know, like season like what 1 or 2 Jamie Ron was very much a how would I say this? Like just a costume character, fun guy, you know. He still had merits, but he wasn't really so supposed to be taken seriously. Next time he comes up, dude's super, like, even though he's having fun, way more talented, really gave it its time. Similar to Darvish.
Right. So anyone else you want to mention from stage 2 before we go to stage 3?
I mean, Yuuji Urushihara, Yusuke Morimoto, they are dope. They are so good. Like, oh my gosh, we are so blessed to have these 2 amazing athletes in the Sasuke area at the same time. They are so good. Man, who else? Who was that? Like, I forget his name, but who was number 99? Because this dude was like, I see his background. He's super and talented in terms of like rock climbing and everything else. But this dude is super damn handsome. Like, if there's somebody that you want, like whoever the producers are of Sasuke wants to have like achieve total victory, they want this guy because this guy can very much be the face of Sasuke.
Yeah, I feel so much better. My notes on that guy are like, it's Tomohiro Kawaguchi. I think
That's okay. Yeah, I
it's
know.
Tomo,
Okay.
I think they call him.
Mm-hmm.
He he is probably the coolest guy I have ever seen. Like, if there was one guy I wanted to emulate, this is the guy. He is super handsome, successful. It seems like he's got his own ninja shoe company. I think it specializes in climbing shoes. I think it is. Just I don't know, something about he's got so much swagger and coolness. Like, he is
Just looks like a movie star.
He does. Like, he's just got a presence. He never looks like he's shaken. He's very, very fun to watch. I like him a lot.
Yeah, so, he very much has that quote-unquote it factor, star presence, whatever you want to call it. He just has that presence. And I like the fact that they don't overdo it with him, but every time he's on screen, you really pay attention. And I don't know why, but I was really rooting for him. He doesn't have that unlikable, like, oh, he thinks he's like the man or whatever. He never really came off like that to me. So I was really rooting for him. And I don't know. I feel like if there's somebody else that can achieve total victory, he's definitely one of those top spots. Like, and he can be a big, big star. Like, he already is a star, of course, but I think he can be like really, really big in the next few seasons of Sasuke.
All right. So, yeah, we had like a lot of the favorites moving on to stage 3. I was really excited to see, because I did hear, the part about Yusuke Morimoto, but I was like, well, how did everybody else do? And I was shocked, man. There was a lot of people went deep into stage 3.
Yeah. So not just that, man. I was excited of the number of people in stage 3, but I was really excited to see how many people can take on, vertical limit. Because in my opinion, still to this day, vertical limit in stage 3 of Sasuke is the single-handedly toughest obstacle in all of ninja competitions. Of all time, every single one, internationally or not, I think it is the toughest obstacle.
So to describe it, for those that aren't familiar with it, it is, stage 3 is very similar to what you've seen before, as far as like it's very upper body intensive. There's a flying bar, there's a cliffhanger and things that you would be familiar with. After they start with the flying bar, which is a little odd to me because I'm so used to it being the last obstacle.
Hey, start strong, right? Start with a hard obstacle.
Yeah, and they have a couple other ones. I won't get into all the details, but after the ultra crazy cliffhanger, which has one of the balls actually moving up and down, which I cannot get used to.
I have to look back at the A&W one, but just the ultra cliffhanger or whatever you would call it, that alone I think is even tougher than the American Ninja Warrior one. I have to look back and compare them. Maybe there's some differences, but I remember the A&W one has at least a foothold before the first jumping transition, where this one doesn't have that.
I would say it's more difficult. I think if you were going to give any points to A&W, it would be that transition. So they transitioned the first time, and then they've got to move from one set of holes to the other, like sideways, like transition sideways over a gap. And I think it's offset. I think the second one is further in. So it's like a really weird, awkward transition there. I think that's harder than moving around the corner the way they have to. But to have that other side when they transition back, I don't think there's any comparison that the Sasuke one is 10 times harder with it going up and down. And I think the holds are not as wide either.
Could be, but I really like the fact that the wall moves, in particular because it's not super noticeable. Like, when you think the wall moves, you think somebody's just gonna like completely mistime it and like just jump to the other side and there's no wall available. But it's more of a more subtle thing, where if the wall is going upwards when they transition, they will still catch it with their hands, but almost every time those guys slip off because gravity is working against them. And I don't know if you watch this, Rich, but a lot of the people that did the transition, not a lot of them, some of them just going to hold on for obvious reasons. I mean, it's tough. But for at least two of them, when they were doing that transition, if the wall was going up, instantly falling off. And the people that completed that transition in the crazy ultimate cliffhanger, whatever you want to call it, it was usually going downwards or it was still very low when they caught themselves. As in, it wasn't too high. It wasn't like you were going downwards and your hands were super. You had to extend it very far outwards and then catch something that was going up. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. I was wondering if how much of a factor that would play. It does. It does make sense for sure. But we've had very few people ever do that I've seen. Right? It's very much been the best of the best that have been able to do it. And then they fail almost immediately on the vertical limit afterwards, which I started to describe and didn't. Imagine you had to grab the underside of a wall. I don't know how else to describe it. It's basically like the floating boards. Imagine you're grabbing the bottom of the floating boards and you're not far off from what vertical limit is. And you've got to move along this, like, I don't know how long it is, maybe 6 feet or so. It's pretty long.
Pretty long, but the key is you're just using literally like the two knuckles. You start out with like the two knuckles of your fingers.
Yeah, from the bottom, very, very little bit of a ledge to grab, like not even, you barely call it a ledge. You've got to move a couple feet over to the side to grab the next one, transition a few feet along that.
Oh, going forward also. It's like diagonal. It's protruding forwards also.
Yeah, it's absolutely ridiculous. You got to do that twice to reach the final like resting spot, and it is
and it gets
virtually
smaller
impossible.
Every single one also. So the first one, it's like two knuckles, the two like fingertip knuckles, and then you transition to the middle one, which is like whatever half, maybe like 1.5 of it. By the last one, and there's no rest periods between this. You've gone through those two, and you have to get to the final one, and it's literally the fingertips, the very last knuckle. Look at everybody at home, unless you're driving. Look at your fingernails. That's all you're going to be holding on by. Literally it. And not like a cliffhanger where it's forwards. It's like the underside. Basically I don't know if it's called a pull up or a chin up or whatever. The one where you use your biceps if you're on a pull up bar. But anyways, you're basically doing that and you have to get through that part. And I could be wrong, but to this day, I think Yusuke Morimoto might be the only one that's actually completed it. Am I wrong, Rich? Has somebody else done it?
He's the only one I've seen doing it. Yeah, I'm sure there's people that have done it, but he's the only one I've seen do it. That's for sure.
He's the only one that I can remember doing it, and it's by far the hardest obstacle I've ever seen. Maybe there's other harder ones I'm unaware of, but for me, that's the toughest.
We've seen Drew fail it. Like we know it's tough enough to take out Drew Drechsel twice now, I think. I could be wrong on that, but it's definitely like we've seen very few people attempt it, and the ones that have failed pretty quickly until this tournament.
And not to mention, I want to really make this clear to everybody. Up to this point, getting to that vertical limit, it's like always, all the stages. It's the journey also. You've gone through stages 1 and 2, and then in stage 3, it starts with the flying bars, which every single transition you do, you're landing on your fingertips and knuckles, and you're really putting in all that pain. And then you're doing other obstacles where you're using your grip strength, in particular, that crazy cliffhanger. You go straight from that crazy cliffhanger, there's a resting period, but that's it. Your fingertips are completely worn out by that point.
Yeah. If this was the only thing you had to do, maybe you would see more completions. But this is at the end of a very long, grueling course. Not even the end. You're almost to the end. It is a lot to ask of anyone. So it's exciting to see that people did so well this time. We had a few failures on the cliffhanger, as we expect, because it is absolutely brutal. But we had a few people attempt vertical limit and do surprisingly well, like get to that last transition, which I did not see coming. That many people doing it.
Yeah, I think it's the key is that they haven't changed anything in stage 3. If you want to change anything in stage 1 and 2, I'm fine with it, whatever. But honestly, I would very much prefer them to keep Stage 3 exactly how it is. Let the ninjas train, prepare, and get through this crazy this crazy stage, because honestly, it's the right amount of difficulty. It might even be too difficult. But hey, well, you've seen somebody complete it, so I can't even say that really. I like the fact that we've seen people get very far in it just because they can train, they can prepare. And it harkens back to earlier seasons of Sasuke, the whole Makoto Nagano thing and his journey. It was always a journey for him, getting closer and closer and closer, and him building and training to that final pivotal culmination where he actually complete stage 4. We're getting something very similar with Yusuke Morimoto, very similar in these past few seasons. And I don't know, watching all of the big talents, Yuuji Urushihara, somebody that's completed achieved total victory twice. He actually made it to stage 3 this time, which has been kind of a tough journey for him lately. And I was so excited to see him. How would he do on this? How would, oh gosh, I forget the guy, but he had like fur on his chin or whatever. He was like a legit rock climber. And he was even going for it. Like, there were some really high-end grip strength, like, really savvy people going on this stage. And I was excited. And they did not disappoint, man. As you said, they went far in this.
Yeah, I just did a quick scan through. So we had 10 people in stage 3. Yusuke Morimoto, which I think we've given away, if you didn't already realize, actually completed stage 3 and got to attempt stage 4. Other than him, 3 other people got to the final transition on the vertical limit, including Yuuji Urushihara.
Man, I was so excited. Could you imagine if he completed that?
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. I wanted it so badly. But he gave it his all, and you could see the pain in their faces, man. I mean, that's all I want to see. No matter how far you get or whatever, just give it your all. And it was amazing. And once again, it was like a sporting event. Like, they didn't make it goofy at all. Like, stage 1's for all the goofiness, but stage 3, they really amped things up. They gave it a lot of time, like, before somebody would run. Like, you're literally sitting there for like 15 seconds of nothing, of them just like really staring at it and like really building up the drama. Like, they do a good job in terms of making things tense. Maybe it's too slow for some people, but I loved it.
No, I've said it before. I definitely think it bears repeating. They use silence better than any show I've ever seen. They will let it hang there. They'll let someone miss the buzzer by 2 seconds and collapse next to it and just leave you in that uncomfortable silence as you realize, like, the crowd's silent. No one wants to say anything, and they're just laying there, and they'll let out a yell, and then it's still silence. Like, they do not cut away. They really make you feel for the competitors that don't quite make it through, and the cheers and stuff that you get are legit. Like, it doesn't feel like it's amped up. It's a little exaggerated because they'll replay it 3 times over, 4 times over.
Yeah.
From different angles and from different perspectives, which I like. I think that's great. It actually does kind of make it more exciting without it feeling forced.
Mm-hmm. Well, all I could say is you said it perfectly.
But let's get to the stage 4 run. I think we've covered enough for stage 3.
Stage 3, just want to say, it was really intense, drama filled, and I think they should keep it exactly how it was. And in particular, the Yusuke Morimoto run, very drama filled. I mean, this run, which probably took him let's say it took him 3 minutes, they spent 10 minutes on it. They let the downtime where he's resting actually sit there. You let him feel his exhaustion, and it was just very drama filled. And the elation when he completed it was absolutely amazing. I literally screamed or cheered in the middle of my gym because I was on the treadmill at the time, and I got some looks, but I was super happy for him. And that's that's some real stuff, is when you can really share that joy with them. That said, we go into stage 4, and Rich, if you can, please really describe for our listeners, even before it happens, What do they do that's different from anything I have ever seen in Sasuke for Stage 4? Did you get this key of like how different this was watching Stage 4?
Yeah, I knew before it even aired, I knew that this was how they were going to do Stage 4 if there was anyone attempting it. There was a decision, a brilliant, absolute genius marketing slash, I don't know what you want to call it, what kind of decision it was. It was just all good.
It was so brilliant.
They broadcasted it live. They, for the first time ever at Yokohama Red Brick Warehouse. They set up Stage 4 like separate from the rest of the tournament. So they, at a later date, I don't know how big of a difference between the two things there were, but they set it up Stage 4 and everyone got to see Morimoto climb for total victory real time, and people could watch at home live. Like, it's such a great idea. I can't express in words how much I would love for them to do that with ANW.
Dude, it was so amazing. Like, if you guys remember back to like New Year's like day celebrations, right? New Year's Eve in the whatever the Times Square ball is about to drop or whatever, and you just see Times Square, a sea of people all wanting to see this amazing spectacle happen. It looked like that in Japan for, of all things, Sasuke. Like, they literally had live hundreds of, maybe thousands of citizens out there just wanting to see if Yusuke Morimoto could climb Mount Midoriyama in time. It was absolutely amazing.
It was amazing. And you know what was funny is, as I was watching it, I thought, well, that makes sense. People want to go, it's like, oh, is he going to win the $1 million or not? And then my brain went, wait a second, idiot. There is no $1 million. They went to go see this just for the sheer joy of seeing someone complete it, accomplishing such a crazy feat. I love that spirit of it, that it's got nothing to do with money. It is strictly a test of will and a test of skill.
Not just that, man. I mean, the visual aspect, it really heightened all the drama. It really got me excited. Like, I hope I'm not alone in this. You guys, man, you gotta tell me if you felt differently. But I was on edge so much because it just felt like this amazing sporting event. Like, I can't even say Super Bowl because, man, this year's Super Bowl sucked. But, say like it's the final drive and it's like very close in like a baseball game, football game, whatever. It's the final run. And everybody's watching live and everybody's just holding their breath. What's going to happen? It felt like that. Thousands of people on air, live. It's there on time, like on the screen. The lights are lit up on Stage 4. Yusuke Morimoto is there at the bottom of Stage 4. They literally have a drone shot going all the way down Stage 4. Like, they amped this up. They built it up so strongly. This was history in the making. And man, if you ever want to see the height of what this sport can be, nothing has been like amped up more than this. I mean, this was absolutely drama-filled spectacle amazement. And not just that, Rich, sorry to cut you off, man, but not just that, how good of a Stage 4 was that? It wasn't just a dumb rope climb. It was a Stage 4 worthy of all the spectacle.
It was. It makes it so much more exciting. Like, I have to agree with you that, like, having a spider climb into a salmon ladder and then a rope climb feels like a real test and a real way to cap off a Ninja Warrior tournament. Not just a rope climb. A rope climb is such a singular, I don't know, it's just a foolish activity. It's something you do in gym class. It's not a real obstacle, or it doesn't feel like it.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, like, hey, Drew Drechsel, why don't you and I do a 100-meter race, Like,
yeah.
It's the equivalent of something like that. It's like, well, I ran my entire life, so I might actually beat Drew Drechsel in a race like that. But that doesn't mean I'm a better Ninja Warrior than him.
Yeah,
and I know that's not hand-in-hand, but a rope climb is such a specific skill. It's not something that should be worth $1 million.
Right. So you had 45 seconds to go up this crazy 3-pronged challenge.
A variety of skills, a variety, I wouldn't say muscle groups, but definitely you have to earn it.
And he ends up missing it by like a second. Like it was such a small amount. And what makes that even more painful is that in his transition to the rope, he had some trouble grabbing it. And if he had been able to grab it on the first pass, I'm pretty sure he would have hit that buzzer.
I mean, it was the wind, man. And I'm very curious to see if there was controversy or anything else. I just don't know. Please, listeners, if there's feedback I want to hear, how did you feel about this rope situation? Because I feel like there's simple things like a little tiny string that would like unshackle or whatever of the rope, but the rope was it wasn't long enough to where he can just grab it willy-nilly from the transition of the first of the last rung of the salmon ladder. But it was slightly maybe at height length of that salmon ladder, the top rung. But because it was so high, the wind was blowing, so he had to go out of his way to extend his arm outwards, like far away from, not upwards, but outwards, to grab the thing. And then it started blowing all around the place, so he actually had to take his time for the wind to swing it back to him to catch it. And then he started going. And I don't know how much time it was, but it had to have been at least 2 seconds, which probably costed him the time. We will never know. Maybe it wasn't the factor, but I felt like that was a very strong factor. Not only the physical step and the timing, but also the mental factor involved. I mean, it was just unfortunate. I don't blame anybody for it. It just happened. But I feel like stage 2 and the whole Drew Drechsel debacle, I think there is a simple fix to where that won't happen again.
Yeah, I think whoever wrote the Sasukepedia entry agrees with you. I can't remember the exact wording, but yeah, it definitely had the tone of that shouldn't have happened, and it was the wind. And they were quite convinced that the time difference was enough.
Yeah, it was unfortunate, man, but I can't let that like really sour what an amazing event this was. It was long and everything, but when it came down to the end of stage 1 going in all the way to stage 4, everything that we saw was so incredibly entertaining and engaging. We had controversy, some, I do without, but we had some drama. We had some elation. We had joy. We had sadness, like everything you can imagine through it. And we really cared for these competitors, or at least I did. And it all culminated to Yusuke Morimoto, somebody that's achieved this before and has had an amazing journey. Because if you guys don't remember, Yusuke Morimoto grew up loving Sasuke and throughout his childhood trained for this. And it was his dream. And he's still young, but he achieved total victory and he wants to do it again. He's somebody that really genuinely has wanted this in his entire life. I mean, what an amazing competitor to root for. And to see like Ninja Warrior or Sasuke culminate to such an amazing spectacle. I mean, I loved everything about this. I really did.
Yeah, it was a wonderful tournament. We now know why everyone was so excited for us to cover it. And glad that you did ask us to, and we're glad that we did. Thank you very much for suggesting it. We always take those kinds of suggestions very seriously.
Oh, yeah. And I bet, man, I can't wait for this next Sasuke to come. I wonder if they're going to do two this year, similar to last year or not. If they do, man, I don't know about you, Rich, but I'm watching it day one. We aren't waiting a month or 2 months this time. Nope. We're getting this done.
I have to say, a couple tournaments ago, I got up early morning to watch it with everybody because there's like some online communities that get together to watch these at the same time. And it's fantastic. It's really cool to kind of share in like a community watching event that way.
Yeah, that's amazing. And props to everybody that does that. I mean, diehards and the fan base, everyone involved in the community really makes these types of things really special. And I'm glad there's so much positivity also in a lot of these conversations. That said, I want to have a dialogue and conversation. And I'm gonna propose a question now, and I want to have really the discussion next week. Next week, we are going to be joined, unless something happens, tentative everybody, but we're going to be joined by Will from 222 Productions. And he, used to be co-host of Final Stage podcast. He's a lot more in tune with Sasuke and everything like that. And Will, don't worry, due to your wishes, we're not going to be covering Sasuke or whatever. But I really want to pose a question to Will, you, Rich, and everybody at home. I really want to know, who at this point do you think is the GOAT, the greatest of all time when it comes to Sasuke proper? Because I think there's the heartfelt one for a lot of people, which is Makoto Nagano. The guy that for when Ninja Warriors started becoming very popular in America and internationally, he was the guy. He was the guy where we were all with the journey and really rooting for him. But then you have Yuuji Urushihara, the only competitor in all of Ninja Warriors, all versions, that has achieved total victory twice. I mean, that speaks for itself. And if you just want to go with the accolades, that you can't beat that. But then I propose a question. Yusuke Morimoto now has achieved total victory, and in my opinion has completed not just once, but 3 times now, or twice. No, 3 times now, the single-handedly hardest obstacle that any Ninja Warrior competition has ever given us, which is vertical limit. I genuinely believe that. So you can go any different way, And also, I'll even propose this. And I know this might be blasphemous or a hot take, but I would understand if you even argue Drew Drechsel. And the reason I say that is, look at the consistency that Drew Drechsel has shown for such a long period of time, making it to stage 3 all the time in Sasuke. So if you want to propose that, I would understand that. And I understand, like, hey, an American, trying to be the GOAT, hasn't even achieved total victory. I know. But I would understand if you even want to propose that. And maybe somebody that I'm not even thinking about, There's the firefighter that I blanking on his name, and I know it's terrible, and so many other names. But I really want to, hear, which way do you go when it comes to the Sasuke GOAT? I don't know, man. I really go back and forth. I felt like if Yusuke Morimoto were to have completed stage 4 tonight, or I guess in Sasuke 36, I mean, I would have fought for him I felt like he would have cemented that title. But right now the argument's up for a lot of different varieties. So, hey, just a fun conversation. I want to hear it online. And also, Will, I want to hear your thoughts, bro. Next week.
In the meantime, if you'd like to reach out to me, you can reach me as rich@ninjapodcast.com. I am at Ninja Podcast on both Instagram and Twitter. And Bijan, how can they reach you?
Hit me up at Twitter and Instagram at Bijan151. That is Bijan 151.
All right, thank you all so much for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful week.
Arigatou gozaimasu. Power! If y'all don't know that reference, shame on you.